Hey guys, back again, and I'm here to do my May wrap up. Whew, I know. May was super fantastic because I read so much in May. I read 9 books in May. Like, I think 9-10 books is the max that I could possibly read in a month. I don't think I've ever read over 9 or 10 books, but BookTube Prize, you know, I had 4 books for them that I had to read. So let me just start with what I read first, and I'll just work my way down to what I read last. Okay, so first book on the list is this one, which is Wanda Coleman's Selected Poems, Wicked Enchantment. Okay, now this is such an excellent poetry collection. Wanda Coleman is sort of like a forgotten poet. Okay, she, when she was alive, was maybe not at the top where people could say, oh, Wanda Coleman, and know who she was. But Wanda Coleman had done a little bit of everything job-wise. But her poetry is so bold, gritty, and alive. Okay, if you really love poetry or you want to get into poetry, I highly recommend picking up this one. So Penguin gifted me this one, and another thing is this one is introduced by Terrence Hayes. So if you know, if you've been following me for a while, you know Terrence Hayes is like up there for me. And, you know, he writes the introduction to this. And like I said, it is top-notch poetry. I highly recommend that you pick this one up. It's a great edition. Really has some great poems in it. I gave this one 5 stars because it's the top. Next on my list was Real Life. So if you watched my BookTube Prize video, you know that I read this one in one day. And I thought it was okay, you know, nothing to write home about, like, you know, it's okay. So I gave this one, I think it was 3.75 stars, which on Goodreads, that don't mean nothing. But hey, on the Storygraph, that means everything. Next, I picked up Piranesi after that. This one you also know, I've already spoken about it. It's kind of like a fantasy that I thought was okay, nothing that I would write home about, but it's a book that has been marveling people recently. I'm not really sure why, but I guess if you love fantasy, I could see how it would marvel you. But for me personally, I just felt, yeah, okay about it. This one got, I think it's a 3.3 stars for me. The next book that I read was The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It has, you know, everything you need for an exciting story. But not only that, it's short and sweet, nothing drawn out. But it does contain a lot about delivering babies. And she does not hold back on the descriptions. I gave this one 3.9 stars. I highly recommend it. Thought it was a really wonderful read. The next book on the list is Acro Noir. And this one was published by Cassava Republic. This was gifted to me from Cassava Republic. And I say thank you, thank you. Okay, so this is the first book I've read in the Noir series. I think I own Haiti Noir 1 and 2 and Lagos Noir. And I might own, I think, New Orleans Noir. But hadn't read those yet. But this one came and I picked this one up and I thought, oh my God. This was so freaking good. So the Noir series is basically a series of crime short story collections that was put together by Akashic Books, which is a small publishing company, independent, that's found in Brooklyn. And Cassava put this one together, Acro Noir. And it is edited by Nana Ama Dankwa. And inside of there's stories from the only person I know in here. Well, no, I know 2 people in here. It's Kwame Dawes and Nana Akwa Brew Hammond. The other authors are all new to me, but that's where I like these series, because what you have is you have the editor is maybe somebody that's well known from this area, and then they curate the other short stories that go into the collection. But this right here, OMG, this was really, really good. I'll give this like a 4.5 stars. Wonderful read, contains a lot of stories that culturally put us into the context of living in Accra and Ghana. And if you can't pick up the book and you have Scribd, it's on Scribd in book form and audio form. What I did was I read the first half of the book, and the second half I read and listened simultaneously to the audio, and the audio was fantastic. All of the voices are, they go really well with the stories. And just to let you know, the first story comes out the gate like, I'm like, okay, Acro Noir, it came out the gate like strong. I highly recommend this one. If you haven't read the Acro Noir series yet and you like crime, I highly recommend this one. It's very, very good. Next on my list, of course, is Shuggie Bain, which was the last book that I read for the BookTube Prize. As you know, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It got a 4.75 stars. So, yeah, you know what I think. Highly recommend if you can withstand reading the trauma. Next on my list, I have Red Island House by Andrea Lee. Oh my God, this book really blew me away as well. This is a book that talks about a young African-American woman whose name is Shay, and she is married to an Italian man who's a little bit older than her, who's called Senna. And Senna has bought some land and a house over in Madagascar, and he wants his wife Shay to come over because she is going to be the mistress of the house. Now, this book asks many questions about race and about culture. And one of the main things it does is it confronts this African American woman with the idea of being a mistress of the house in a country where the people are like her. They're black as well. So what we go on here is sort of like a journey of Shay as a woman. We see her growing through each visit that she does when she goes to stay in Madagascar. So when she arrives, there's a man there who is considered the person who's supposed to be the go-between, take care of the servants that are working there. But in fact, he is a very nasty, mean man who treats the servants basically like slaves. I think he's like a Hispanic man who is entitled in everything that he does. And that's when the conflict begins. So when you're reading this, what you have to remember is there's some things about it that are very particular in the novel, is that the novel feels like you're reading journal entries. And I feel like that is quite a refreshing feel for a novel. And with each entry, we learn something more about the culture in Madagascar, but we also learn more about Shay as a black woman and what she's learning about the place where she is. It's really, really, I highly recommend this one. Andrea Lee is an author that a lot of people don't talk about, maybe don't know who she is. Christy from Christy Kia here on BookTube, but she is Brown Island Reader over on Instagram. We had the pleasure of discussing this book with the author. If you're interested in watching it, you can go and check on Brown Girl Reading over on Instagram, on my IGTV. You can catch us there. Christy and I talk about books about once every 3 weeks together. We either talk about a book together or we talk about a book together with the author. So if you're interested in seeing those, if you're on Instagram, you can catch us over there on Brown Girl Reading IGTV. And you can see us discussing this with Andrea Lee. So good. So good. Then next on my list was this baby, Barbara Kingsolver's Unsheltered. And take a look at this edition though. I mean, this edition is so good. So good, this edition. And it's got a pink cover as well. All right. So this is a book that has two storylines. One that takes place in 2016 and the other one that takes place in 1871. And what we have here is a story about insecurity, life changes, world changes, family problems, and all of it surrounding a house that a couple inherits from the wife's aunt. And we have this couple which is comprised of, I think her name is Willa. So Willa is a journalist who is a freelance journalist now, and her husband is a professor. And they have literally moved from town to town to town to town to town because her husband is chasing tenure, which he cannot seem to be able to get. Because without that tenure, they're not secure in their life. Okay? They're missing money. They're missing a lot of things without having tenure. So the book talks a lot about this, the security of life, of living life these days from an older person's point of view, that is somebody who is over 45, as opposed to younger people that are in their 20s and 30s, and how they deal with difficulty, changes, just lots of things that can make your destiny go off another way. And, you know, it's paralleled with 1871 with some other main characters who are real life people, some of them. And we see there as well, they're going through a change and difficulty and how they're going through their change. And it's in the same neighborhood where this house is. So it's really, really interesting to see how Barbara Kingsolver does this. And let me tell you, old girl came through. I don't know where she gets these ideas, but this one right here, I was like, this is going to be a massive fail or it's going to be excellent. And this one was excellent. I thought really, really good, because with this one, she had her finger right on the pulse, you know, of the you-know-who period, who, when he was president, all of that, and you just the whole you know, different ideas politically that people are having and how they can't seem to talk to each other without fighting. Just all the feels for this one. I highly recommend it. Very good. And last but not least, I had A Tall History of Sugar by Cordella Forbes. And this was my Read So Lit Patreon book club pick for the month of May. And whew, this one was something else. Okay, this is a story that starts off, it's a story between a young boy who's called Moshe, who as a baby is found on the edge of, you know, the water, and he has no parents. So the woman who finds him is a woman who becomes his mother. And as he grows up, well, actually right from the start, we realize that Moshe doesn't look like everyone else. That means, when I'm saying doesn't look like everyone else, is like he's not black, but he's not white. His skin is like transparent. He has one blue eye and one green eye, and he has white hair. And you can see all the veins under his skin because his skin is so transparent. He's supposed to be a person with no identifiable race. Now, there's a lot that goes on in this book. And I don't know whether to tell people to read this book or not, because the first half of the book, I was really digging it. And then the second half of the book made me go like that. Once we had started to, once we had read the first part of the book, I think a lot of people were really interested. And another thing is, I highly recommend, if you're going to read this one, to pick up the audio with it, because it's going to help you with the reading. There are many areas in this book where there is Jamaican patois, and that may or may not be easy for you to understand. There are still some aspects of the patois that I still couldn't get. But even though that did not deter me from not wanting to finish the book. I really wanted to see how this was going to wrap itself up. And what wound up happening was, I realized that there were many aspects of the book that I am not capable of understanding because I'm not Jamaican. Down to like where certain things happen, down to the patois, down to many other aspects of the story that make it difficult for me to really understand. But I appreciate it for what it is. I appreciate it for some of the things that I could understand and that I did learn from the book. But here again, I think I gave this book a 3 stars. I hesitated with giving it a 2.5, but I think I'm giving it a 3 because it is quite an interesting work, what she's trying to go about saying with it. But it's really hard to understand. And yeah, I mean, we can talk about it below. Does it deter you from reading a book when you notice that there's some patois in the book, or do you just not care and you're just like, I'm pushing on, pushing on? That's usually what I do. I usually try to push on, if possible, get myself on audio and see if that will help me understand more. But I don't let that deter me. But that's not the part that deterred me about this book. What deterred me was the way she went about doing the storytelling, because I think she got a little too wrapped up in certain mystical aspects and other things, and she forgot about her storyline. And I think that's what was the consensus in the book club that probably made some people either give up reading, or some people to give it like a 2 stars, etc., etc. So I say go ahead and try it. You know, go ahead and pick it up at your local library or get it on Scribd. On Scribd you can get the audio. I wouldn't tell you to go out and buy it unless you're sure you're really, you know, because I don't know if you're going to like it. I'm just telling you. But yeah, so that was the 9th book of May that I read. So that was it. That was my month of May. That was my reading. As you can see, it was extremely full. I think I read over 3,400 pages or something like that. It was quite the month, because you have to realize 2 of the books I read were over 400 pages. So, yeah, I was tired. My eyes was tired. Okay. So hopefully you enjoyed this and saw some things that you'd be interested in trying. Hang in there with me. I've got to get some more videos up. I have been extremely busy and not able to really film. So stay tuned. There are going to be some more videos coming your way. Thanks for watching. Bye.